In today's video, I'm in Tampa, Florida, checking out a local shop called Big Redheads Vintage Toys. I had some time prior to Tampa ToyCon while I was in town, and this is one of the local stores that I was recommended. So let's head on in and check it out. And there is so much cool stuff crammed in this store. Immediately upon walking in, I'm seeing comic books, I'm seeing lots of cool pop culture nostalgia, and so many toys. Where do I start? Well, there's so many glass cases in here that look like they are absolutely crammed full of cool stuff. So let's just start on one end and we'll work our way through the store. So why don't we go ahead and just start with the Masters of the Universe selection here. This is always an easy place for me to start in toy shops because, well, since this is my primary collection, the stuff that I'm looking for at this point is very specific or unique. So it's always a good place for me just to kind of gauge what they might have that I might be missing from my collection, and then just go from there to see what else I find throughout the rest of the store. And there's a really good selection of MOTU here. I'm seeing everything from vintage to origins to even the commemorative series. Hey, there's a pretty good selection of later vintage line releases there. Ooh, and Mantisaur. I love Mantisaur. And then my eyes go to these little eggs here. And you might look at those and think, oh yeah, the Meteorbs. But you would only be half right because these specifically are not Meteorbs, but as you may or may not know, the Meteorbs in the vintage Masters of the Universe line were originally released by Bandai in Japan as Tamagoras, so the molds were reused for Masters of the Universe. So I'm looking at these right here, and I notice right away that Silver T-Rex is from the Bandai Tamagoras line. I actually have one of those at home already, but I'm more interested in the other sitting there. You see, I see that Bronto and that Lion, both of those were released in the MOTU line as Astro Lion and Dinosaur, but these are colored differently. So I'm wondering if these are possibly the Bandai releases, or it could be some bootlegs or knockoffs because these egg toys have been bootlegged to death at this point. I also notice a more modern looking one in there. It's still in a baggie. It's called an alien egg, and that looks really interesting as well. So all three of these are definitely standing out to me right at the beginning of my shopping here at the store. So I'm going to keep all of these in mind, but we're going to keep looking around. There's some other nice Masters of the Universe items in here as well. The puzzles and the storybooks are always awesome to see. I think I have all of these here, but I definitely don't run into them as often as the toys. So again, always nice to see. Well, now here is a pretty sweet Kenner shelf. First of all, a few Bone Age dinosaurs are in here. I ran into a few of these earlier this year, I think while I was in Colorado at 5280s, and I mentioned then that I never see these, so it's really funny that here I am seeing them for a second time this year. They are incredibly cool toys. But aside from Bone Age, I also see a really nice selection of m.a.s.k vehicles. Now, m.a.s.k is a toy line that I personally have no connection to. I didn't have any of these as a kid, and I've really never collected them as a toy collector, but I know that there were a lot of fans of this toy line out there. So it's always really cool to see these. It's definitely a cool concept for a toy line, and maybe it's something I will dabble in down the road if I'm looking for something new to try out. But this is a good selection here.
M.a.s.k, where illusion is the ultimate weapon.
Convert Switchblade to jet mode. Surprise, Matt Tracker. It's mayhem. Battle station. Protect the decoder, Bruce. I'm going up. Stacks ready to fire.
M.a.s.k, Switchblade, Thunderhawk, and Rhino.
Fire!
Each sold separately with action figure.
Cover me, Matt. 10-4. Sato's getting away. But you're not, Mayhem.
M.a.s.k, Switchblade, Thunderhawk, and Rhino. Each sold separately. New from Kenner.
Oh, sweet. There's a couple of Big Jim gorillas in here from Mattel. Now, if you don't know, that was almost a Masters of the Universe figure back when that line launched. If you've never heard that before, you should totally check out my video all about Gygor, the figure that was. Look how I just insert that plug right into the middle of my toy hut. I also see Mattel's Sucker Man in there. He's laying back there behind Rambo and Pee-wee, another classic 70s Mattel toy that I really love. Oh, and then the Crash Dummies dog and cat. You know, it's still crazy to me that they made toys of these pets that are meant to be run over and flattened. Like, how did that even happen? And of course I already own these in my collection. They're so outrageous, how could I not? So here's another case with some really great stuff in it. For instance, I see a bin filled with battle beasts. Looks like they may even have their weapons, which is pretty rare to see for these. I even see a carded set in there. And if not battle beasts, how about a bag of army ants or bag of muscle? So many cool minis here. LJ and Dungeons and Dragons figures, yes! And man, here is the Bronze Dragon. This is one that I am not sure that I've run into before. It looks like he's missing his saddle and might only have one wing. I see one wing like laying underneath him, so I'm not sure if both of the wings are in there. Still, $55 really doesn't seem like a bad price for this. A lot of these Dungeons and Dragons figures, especially these ride-ons, have gotten pretty expensive. It'd be cool to get one of these a bit more complete though. So even though this is something I do want to add to my collection, I'm wondering if I should hold off and maybe I'll get lucky somewhere down the line and get one that's at least got the saddle and both wings. I don't know. Alright, it's time to look at the TMNT figures. Here's a whole bunch of figures lined up in the case from the Toon Turtles series, which is actually one of my favorite sublines within the original Turtles toy line. Oh, both of these figures here are pretty obscure. I especially love that Sumo Raph. He's been on my list of figures that I want to add to my collection for a long time, but as you can see here, he carries a really hefty price tag. In fact, this one is pretty dang expensive. Now, a lot of times when you find this figure, the hair piece is broken off and you never see him with his sandals or his accessories. So the fact that this one is in such good condition is likely the reason for that high price tag, but still, yikes. Turtle stuff, especially those later line releases, have just gotten so expensive that it's really hard to collect that line these days. Man, that is one clean looking Technodrome right there. Still probably my all-time favorite playset, by the way. I see a graded turtle blimp up on top of this case, and then continuing down, you see a really nice selection of other vehicles and figures. And this stuff is all in such good shape that I'm really wondering if they like bought out a collector's entire collection, somebody who was really taking care of their stuff, because these are some of the nicest Turtles pieces I've seen in one spot for sale. Moving on, I have found the G.I. Joe section. And while there are several nice carded figures here, I also found a bin of baggied loose figures. I immediately spot the Alley Viper figure. Now this is one that I've been interested in since beginning my journey of collecting G.I. Joe figures this year. Obviously those bright colors are attractive, but I've always thought that Alley Viper is a great design all around, and this one is complete with his file card. So this is a heavy contender for a purchase today. There's a decent selection of other Joes in here. Some of these are ones that I've been looking at kind of over and over again throughout the year, all considering to purchase. There's even some that come with their card backs. So I also noticed that there's a pretty good selection of Transformers and other robot toys in here. And to be perfectly honest, a lot of times when I'm looking at Transformers, I just don't really know what I'm looking at. Sure, I know some of them. I've got a handle on who characters are, but as somebody who's never really collected Transformers, it's always a bit overwhelming when I see these in the cases. But I know a lot of viewers do like them. I've been asked a lot why I don't focus on more Transformers in the stores. So I wanted to show off some of the cool stuff here because some of these are standouts to me. And while not necessarily Transformers, there are some really cool robot toys here. For example, check out this set of vintage bootleg Dinobots. Yes, these are bootlegs, but they look really good. Really good bootlegs of the vintage G1 Dinobots. Prehistory animals, gotta love that name, but I especially love the boxes that those come in. But what I really love were some of these older robot toys from Japan. I believe some of these predate Transformers as we know them here in the US. And these are just so unique looking. I especially love that golden spherical bot. And of course they're back metal, so they're shiny. Definitely got my attention right away. Hey, okay, so here are some robots that I know. There's a good selection of Voltron toys in here. I am a Voltron fan. And hey, RoboForce toys, nice. Oh my, and then my friends, I see a robot toy that I was so excited to see. One that I have never run into in person before. One that I actually have long had on my list of toys that I want to add to my collection.
This was part of the Rock Lords line, right?
Yep.
Oh man.
That was never released in the States.
That-
Only in Europe and Japan.
Oh, that's incredible.
This is Fossilsaurus. He is a combiner from the Rock Lords toy line, believe it or not. Although technically, he was only released in Japan and Europe as part of the Machine Robo line. He was intended to be brought into the US as part of the Rock Lords line, but unfortunately was canceled, so he was never released here. I've only seen pictures of this guy on the internet as somebody who is a fan of Rock Lords and have spent a lot of years collecting the Rock Lords line. This is one that I always dreamed of at some point picking up and adding to my collection. It breaks apart into 4 different Rock Lords, which are known as the Fossil Lords, and then those combine to make this T-Rex looking fossil dinosaur. It's a really, really cool vintage toy, but as you can imagine, he is pricey. This one here being at the $750 mark. So even though this is sort of one of my grail pieces, something that I would definitely love to add to my collection, today is just not the day. I don't really think I can drop that kind of money on a toy, but man, seeing this thing in person, the box, so beautiful. I love it, and it definitely gives me hope that maybe someday, I'll add Fossilsaurus to my collection. Alright, I think I've made my decision on what I will be picking up today, but this is a really great shop. If you are ever in Tampa, Florida, I would encourage you to head on over to Big Redheads Vintage Toys. It is not the largest of shops, but do not let that fool you, because this place is absolutely crammed packed with good stuff. And a lot of rare and unique pieces are within the store. Plus, the owner is extremely knowledgeable. He was happy to answer all my questions about Fossilsaurus and all the other unique Japanese robots that were in there that I had never seen before. Really, really cool shop. So now it is time to see what I picked up while I was there. But before I get into it, I have got to tell you guys, while I was editing the footage for this particular video, I really got upset with myself because I passed on the LJN Dungeons & Dragons bronze dragon figure, and as I'm watching the footage back, I was really kicking myself. And again, it wasn't complete, I don't think. I do think I'd rather have a more complete one, but man, like, it looks so cool, and I'm just like, I can't believe I didn't buy it. This is, I think I've talked about this before, but this is part of the problem of like documenting my toy hunts, is that I have potential to watch this footage back and see what I missed and regret what I passed on, and that is totally what happened here today. But I did get a couple of cool things. So here is my haul. I grabbed the 3 egg dudes that I didn't already have. For the Lion and the Bronto, I was hopeful that these were from the Bandai Tamagoras line, but there are no markings on these toys at all, and doing some research, for example, I can see that the Tamagoras Lion was yellow, similar to the Meteorb's Astro Lion. So I don't think that these are Tamagoras figures. They are likely just bootlegs or knockoffs. However, they are still very cool. I like that they are different colors than the standard MOTU ones, so I'm still very happy to add these 2 to my collection. But I think the winner of the 3 is that alien puzzle egg. He is really interesting. His transformation is actually quite creative, and he makes for a really cool looking creature. I think he's my favorite of the 3 eggs that I grabbed. And finally, I picked up that 1989 Alley Viper. He's in incredible condition, very bright, very clean, and complete with his weapons and his file card. I am so happy to add this one to my growing collection of G.I. Joe figures. Hey guys, thank you so very much for joining me for another toy hunting excursion. Really happy to have you all along for these trips. I'm having a lot of fun with these videos. I hope you guys are enjoying them as well. I hope I'm also like highlighting some really cool shops and bringing attention to some of these local businesses for you guys to check out. Definitely, if you ever get a chance to do so, pop in, see some of these stores that I'm showing in these videos. I want to give a very special thanks to all of my supporters over on Patreon. You guys are amazing, but also a very special thanks to every single person who takes time out of their day to watch these videos, hit the like button, leave a comment, and of course, subscribe. You guys are all helping to make this channel grow, and I really appreciate that. Thank you guys so very much for watching. Have a wonderful weekend, and happy hunting, my friends.